for the working class in order to help them get through their day to the go-to hangout spot for people across the world. But where did this all come from? Ethiopia. It came from Ethiopia. Okay, so stay with me now. Our story starts off in 9th century Ethiopia, where, according to legend, a goat herder named Kaldi was the first person to discover the benefits of coffee beans. He noticed how his goats ate the cherries of a very specific tree that gave the goats so much energy that they couldn't go to sleep at night. So, you know what the first thing was he thought of doing after discovering this? Selling it to the monks. The monks in the local monastery struggled with staying awake during their midnight prayers. So Kaldi thought, hey, this worked for the goats, maybe this will work for the monks, and it did. After discovering this amazing innovation, news of this miracle bean started spreading eastward into the Arabian Peninsula, where we first get our very first appearance of coffee shops. After coffee found its way into the East, the coffee business model started popping up left, right and center across the Arabian Peninsula, and by the 15th century, coffee was being grown in what we know today as Yemen. Fast forward to the 16th century, and coffee became even more popular in Iran, Egypt, Syria and Turkey. It was also here where coffee was being brewed for the first time, and if you were keeping track, that means up until this point, coffee was not being drank, it was being eaten. From the 9th century to the 16th century, 700 years of coffee being eaten. It was way back during the 15th century, however, that the first ever coffee shop started popping up in Egypt. Back to the 16th century, and coffee houses started popping up in the Middle East, but nowhere more than in Istanbul. These coffee houses became a place where people would get together to just hang out and relax. It was also here where it became even more. People came to watch performances, play chess, and even get information on the latest news. In fact, coffee houses became so synonymous with the spreading of information and news that coffee houses garnered the nickname Schools of the Wise. Now, a big chunk of these Arabian coffee houses' customers were Muslim travelers making their way to Mecca. As they went back home, they kept hearing about these places spreading knowledge and serving what was called the wine of Araby. And I'm gonna be so for you guys. What do you mean, the wine of Araby? That's so unnecessarily badass. By the 17th century, coffee houses somehow found its way into Europe. As its popularity skyrocketed, it found its way into Venice, where Pope Clement VIII was asked to intervene. Now, it's important to note that before the people summoned Pope Clement, coffee was already being given the nickname the bitter invention of Satan by the 17th century Europeans. What they didn't expect was that when Pope Clement took a sip of coffee, he loved it so much that he gave it the papal approval. Despite all of these controversies, coffee houses started popping up in England, Austria, France, Germany, and Holland, becoming social hubs in very much the same way as the coffee houses in the Middle East. And just like how they were once known as the schools of the wise, in England they became known as penny universities, because you can buy coffee and an informational conversation for a penny. Get it? It's yeah. I try to make it funny, guys. It was at this time where beer and wine were still the most common breakfast drinks, and you can probably guess that didn't lead to the best working environments. So, as coffee became widely available, the switch from alcohol to coffee as the go-to morning drink was almost instantaneous. As coffee was finding its way into the homes of everyday common folk, coffee houses began specializing, catering towards specific occupations. There were coffee houses catering towards merchants and artists, or brokers even. Still in the 17th century, the Dutch finally got their hands on coffee tree seedlings. They tried to start some fields in India but failed miserably. However, there was one place where they did manage to succeed. The first ever coffee plantation was on the Indonesian island of Java. That's also why the logo for the Java programming language is a cup of coffee. Afterwards, the Dutch expanded their coffee plantation empire to the islands of Sumatra and Sulawesi. I sincerely apologize for butchering those names. The Dutch also created the first ever coffee blend, combining Arabian coffee, also known as mocha, which I didn't know mocha came from Arabia, with the grown coffee on Java. Fast forward 200 years and the French then successfully started growing coffee trees in Vietnam, because for some reason every single European country in the world was starting coffee plantations in Asia. Just like they were starting plantations in other places. The French soon exported coffee tree seedlings to the island of Martinique, and it would spread to the Caribbean as well as South and Central America over the course of the next 50 years. This all led to the first ever occurrence of a coffee shop in the United States, the Tontine Coffee House in 18th century New York. Not before a Portuguese military officer, Francisco de Melo Palheta, sent by the emperor to French Guinea in order to prevent the spread of coffee there, managed to charm the French governor's wife, who gave Francisco a bouquet of flowers that had coffee seeds buried in them. This all led to the eventual billion-dollar coffee industry in Brazil. Back to the 1700s, in 1773, King George III, who still ruled over the New World, imposed an insanely heavy tax on coffee in order to prevent the New World from ditching tea to drink coffee. All this did, however, was cause mass fury, which led to the Boston Tea Party, where the Sons of Liberty boarded 3 British tea ships and then destroyed over 300 chests of tea. Fast forward to the 19th century, and America has started industrial coffee roasting. Coffee houses started spreading like wildfire across the US and the entire world. Nations were built on coffee economies alone, powering workforces, militaries, and every single occupation you can think of. The world centered around coffee. By the dawn of the 19th century, coffee was the second most sought after commodity in the world, second only to crude oil. Now, to get from the coffee houses of the 19th century to the coffee houses we have today, there were multiple different waves. The first wave began during the first industrial revolution in the 20th century. This was when coffee first hit the shelves of grocery stores instead of the bars of coffee houses. Individuals, restaurants, and other businesses could buy pre-ground coffee and brew it themselves. In fact, the sale of coffee in this manner caused people to forget that coffee grows on trees. Then came the second wave, and people realized that they could build entire brands around coffee. And it was with this that we have the first appearance of what we know today as coffee shops. With this, a new culture started forming that focused not only on the quality of coffee, but the overall experience. But just like the coffee houses of ancient Arabia, this phenomenon also skyrocketed due to the invention of the self-serving coffee machine, made by Italian inventor Luigi Bezzera. Luigi Bezzera. I apologize for ruining that name. I'm really trying my best here. Coffee shops once again became melting pots, creating new types of coffee, flavors, etc. One of which of these coffee shops included Cafe Reggio in 1950s New York, a coffee shop that was home to the Beat generation of poets. It was also this very coffee shop that was one of the first ever places to sell a cappuccino. And with the end of the 20th century, paired with the rise of Starbucks, the third wave of coffee shops began, often referred to as specialty coffee. This wave led to a new level of quality, interest, and exploration. Coffee drinkers started looking for specific flavor profiles and single origin coffee, trying different roasts and brewing methods, and their interest in sustainability and transparency started growing as well. It was in this wave that coffee shops became a place to bring your laptop and get some work done, continuing to keep coffee shops one of the oldest remaining third places in modern day society. All across the world, coffee shops vary from a third place to an upper middle class status symbol. From buying a Starbucks Frappuccino in America to taking a picture at a Plato and tagging them on their Instagram in South Africa. In a post-COVID world, coffee shops act as a space for people to hang out with friends or meet new people. And if history has showed us anything, coffee shops will never disappear and will always remain a place of cultural significance. Thank you everybody for watching this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sorry for all the names that I butchered this video. I was really trying my best, guys. I really was. And also, if my voice disappeared anywhere in this video, I'm still recovering from graduation season, and a lot of my friends were graduating, and I was yelling and screaming like, yeah! And like, that's the highest my voice can go now, by the way. Like, my voice is utterly screwed. So that's that. Yeah. Peace, love, positivity. Follow me on Twitter and Threads to keep up, and Instagram and Threads and those things, and TikTok to watch my shorts and reels and TikToks and stuff. Yeah, give me. I promise I'm gonna learn how to do a conclusion. I promise I'm gonna learn how to do an outro. I promise.